Alright everybody, welcome back to the Halloween Hotel. It's been really busy lately. Just got done taking some leave, and I'm going to be on leave for the next 7 days just to get the Halloween haunt going, and 2 extra days on the back end and make sure I can tear it down and kind of put it away. If you've been doing this for a while, you know that when you tear it down, that's how you're going to determine if your stuff's going to be good for the next year or not. And we got a lot of new stuff this year. I've been building a lot of stuff for about the last 9 months, and we went and bought a bunch of stuff recently, so space is going to be limited, but I think we'll be alright. We're going to make it work. Before I get started on this tutorial, Home Depot 50% off today. We went in there and just got a bunch of stuff. We got more skeletons, 15 bucks for skeletons, plus we used the military discount, get 10% off. So we got a lot of stuff today, a lot of characters that I wouldn't normally buy animatronic wise. I usually wouldn't buy them. I usually just make my own. I'm all in for saving money, but when you go to Home Depot and you can get a pumpkin head guy that talks and does a bunch of other stuff for $44 before military discount, you can't really beat it. So, but when I'm not doing that, I'm building my own armatures and I'm building my own characters, and it's really good because you can do whatever you want, and you can do it kind of cheap. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you 2 different types of armatures that I make, and I'll give you prices as I go. It's really not that expensive, but we're going to build 2 different ones. It's going to be kind of a quick tutorial. I have a lot of the stuff done already. I have a lot of stuff that you need, so we're going to go through the supply list and everything that you're going to need, and then I'm just going to build it real quick, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to seal them in place so they don't move. And I'm going to do 2 different types today. So the 2 different types that we have is we have a regular armature that's going to be, you know, maybe the size of me or taller or shorter, whatever the case may be. But we're going to have we're going to have an armature that is going to be standing on the ground. You got to have a base and a platform, and that's the one that I'm going to do this for the second one. But the first one I'm going to do, my wife and I, we have an oddities room, and inside the oddities room we're going to incorporate a witch. I've never done witches before, and we're going to do it, and I think it's going to be a pretty good idea. She's going to be kind of a different witch. She's going to be at a glass ball that I purchased at Michael's. I think it was buy 1 get 3 free or something, and we virtually got it for next to nothing. So we're going to have her sitting at the crystal ball, and she's going to be in a chair. She's going to be at a table, and the table's going to have a drape coming down over, so she doesn't really need to have feet. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to build an armature that's going to sit on a chair, and I can put a little bit of weight on it, and give her a costume and a head and all that stuff. And then we're going to go from there, and that's basically what we're going to do. She's building a witch that can sit at the table. Now I also realized that I could probably go and buy a sitting witch of some sort for about 75 bucks. But all in all, with everything, with the clothes that we're going to put on her, all the materials you see in front of me, plus the head that I'm going to show you here in a minute, I'm talking maybe 20 bucks at the most, absolute most $20. And plus it's fun to build. My wife helped me out on this. She actually built the head. And we're going to show you what we do with paper mache as well, or paper clay. So first thing we're going to do is I'm going to do the armature that's not going to have legs. It's going to be the one that sits in the chair. And here's what you're going to need. Some of the parts that you're going to need, or the tools, is going to be, you're going to need a PVC cutter. Some people use a hacksaw. I use a Sharpie because I always like to mark my pieces as I go. A tape measure of some sort. You're going to need some PVC glue. Some of the parts that you're going to need, this is a little over 1 12-foot piece of PVC pipe. All the PVC pipe and the fittings that I'm going to be using is going to be 3/4 inch. Some of the other parts I'm going to need is I'm going to need 6 90-degree elbows. I'm going to need 1 T-fitting, not a T-fitting, a cross union 4-way. I'm going to need a T-fitting. And then on this one I'm going to go a little different. We're going to use 2 45s. So again, just to sum it all up, you're going to need 6 90 degrees, you need 2 45s, you're going to need the 4-way and 1 T, and about 1.5 sticks of PVC pipe. Now what I did was I measured everything in correlation to myself minus about 10%. So if my forearms are 14 inches, I'm doing maybe 11 inches on the forearms, so on and so forth. So here we go. So let me go over the cuts real quick. This is the cuts that you're going to need. You're going to need 2 6-inch pieces. You're going to need 2 13-inch pieces. You're going to need 2 9-inch pieces. You're going to need a 4-inch piece for the neck. And then you're going to have this guy right here. This is going to be the spine. And this guy is 2 feet. And then for the base, You're gonna need two 11-inch pieces, a 12-inch piece, and then two 5-inch pieces. Alright, so what I'm going to do is I like to build mine from the ground up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to build a base. I'm going to attach her spine. Once I attach the spine, we're going to go with the 4-way. After 4-way, we'll start building the shoulders and the arms. We'll put the neck on, and then we're going to go over the head. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my two 11-inch pieces, and I'm going to put the 90s on them. Now, I know I said in the beginning that we're going to have glue, but learn from my own mistakes that if you glue these as you go, 90% of the time you're going to mess up. So the way I do it now is I get it set, I do it the way that I want it, I make sure that everything is good, and then once I ensure that everything is good, then I tear it apart and glue it down at that time. Or I'll glue it piece by piece as it's standing or on the chair, whatever the case may be. Alright, now I'm going to take my 12-inch piece, I'm going to attach that so I have this right here, sort of like a little U shape with the two fittings on top. Then I'm going to take my two smaller pieces, my 5-inch pieces over here, and then I take my T-fitting and just put my T-fitting in the center. What I've just done is I've created a base. What I like to do is I like to sit it on somewhat of a flat surface. Get this guy on a flat surface, and then I want to make sure that it's not wobbly. And you can see right away when I set it down, this side right here is up. So I just put pressure on it, equal pressure on both sides. Now it's nice and flat. I definitely want to do this before I seal them down as well, because one that's not stable is not going to work out very well. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 2-foot piece. Now one thing that I didn't tell you that you're going to need a drill and a drill bit. And what I do is about 9 inches down, I drill a hole right here, and I'm going to show you why later, but I drill a hole right here. So I put the spine in. Once I get the spine in, I take my 4-way, put my 4-way on. I'm going to go ahead and attach the 4-inch piece, which is going to be my neck. Then I'm going to take my two 6-inch pieces, which are going to be my shoulders. And at that time, I'm going to need two 90-degree angles. I put my 90s on there, turn them however I want to make the posture. Then I take my 13 inches. This is going to be my upper arms on my 13-inch. So 13 inches are in. And then I'll take my 45s, attach my 45s. Again, you can just put them on for now and then adjust at a later time, or when you're fine-tuning everything. And then last but not least, I have my forearms, my 9-inch pieces. So I'm going to connect my 9-inch pieces. And as you can see, she's already top heavy, so she wants to fall over, which that's fine. That's fine if she wants to fall over, not a big deal. We're going to glue her down eventually. And like I said, she's going to be sitting at a chair. She's going to be sitting at a chair with a crystal ball in front of her. I'm still going to put the hands on. We're going to talk about the hands here in a minute. We're still going to put the hands on so I can just bring these up a little bit, and it brings them to where when I put the hands on, she can have the hands around the crystal ball. So this is going to be your basic setup for the armature that's going to sit in a chair. One thing you can do is you can make your own heads, and that's what we do. We love to make our own heads out of styrofoam. We have a lot of examples. I'm going to show you more examples as we go. This was a quick one. We got one of the zombie heads from Michael's. They cost, I think we got on sale for $4. And we got the zombie head. We went and got 4 wigs from the Dollar General and just some acrylic paint. My wife took some paper mache, made the nose of the witch, and then we painted her with a dark green, dry brushed her black, put a smile on her, and we get these fake eyes. Not sure if you can see these eyes or not, but we get these fake eyes off Amazon. They're pretty cheap, come in a whole bag. I think it was four maybe $5 on Amazon Prime, and it was shipped. So we get that going. Pretty tedious job to get the hair attached, but my wife sat there for a couple hours getting the hair on. But she looks really good. I'm really impressed. I love these styrofoam heads. When the season is over, I always work towards next season, and the first thing I do is I take a styrofoam head, I put it on my stand. I have a base that I use, which is this guy right here. This is the base that I use. I'll stick the styrofoam head on there, and I can work with it. I can paint, I can do whatever I want. And what I like to do is I'll put a styrofoam head on there, and I will get paper clay, which I'll show you my recipe as well as soon as the season's over. I get paper clay, and I can sculpt all kinds of stuff. I'll show you some of my work later, but I really thoroughly enjoy the paper clay. It's really good. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm just gonna stick the witch head on here just to show you what she would look like. So there's the witch head. And we went to the dollar store, Dollar Tree, and put the head on her. So that's basically what she's gonna look like. There's many more things you can do to this to make this look more realistic. One thing I like to do is I go to Home Depot, I get this pipe insulation. It already has a crack down the middle, so you just kind of tear it open like such. And then you can just take a razor blade or a utility knife. You just kind of measure it out. You know, you can go kind of haphazard. It doesn't have to be perfect. That's what I love about Halloween. Nothing's perfect. And what you can do is you can come over here. I just took this, made a cut, and I put it on there. I could do the upper arm. There you go. It gives her a little bit of definition so that when you dress her, it looks more realistic. There's other stuff you can use. After you put this on here, you can bulk up biceps with maybe a little bubble wrap and tape. I like to sometimes zip tie these on here so they don't slide, just one zip tie on each. I get the zip ties from the Dollar Tree, and it's insane. I think you get like 50 of them for $1. You can't beat that price anywhere. And the last thing I like to do is the chest. There's a lot of things you can do with the chest. One of the things that I use all the time is a tomato cage. You can use a tomato cage. I usually only use them on my stand-up characters, the ones that are going to be from the ground up. You can still use a tomato cage for this if you want. You kind of sometimes got to cut them and work with the rings that go around, but it's pretty efficient, and I really like it. Another thing I like to do is I'll use something like this right here. This is like an insulation you use for your house, and this is what we're going to use on her. And in about 3 minutes ago, I told you to make sure you cut a hole a couple inches down, about 9 inches down right here. I cut a hole, and what I do is I take this long nail, I stick the nail through. I would normally hot glue it in there, so I have a base right here. I take this insulation, I've already pre-measured what the size of the tube, which is 3/4 inch. I cut it out, I cut a line in the back so I can twist it. And then what I would do is I'll put it on her. Go to the hole, and once that's there like that, I'll take the nail, and then I'll put the nail in there. That way it stays pretty steady. Now, like I said, she's flopping around a lot, and that's normal just because of the weight. But once you put the cement on there, the rubber cement, it's not going to go anywhere. That's why you need to make sure your adjustments are good to go from the get-go, because if you don't, it is going to be a complete mess. So, like I said, this is our witch. Later on today, at some point, I'm going to be making another tutorial where I'm actually going to be making the outfits for these guys. And one of my biggest concerns when I started haunting was clothes. I've learned how to make them look old and spray paint them and do all this and do all that, but thrift stores kind of catch on, and thrift stores cost a lot of money to buy anything that's pretty unique. I would say in my bin that I have is a pretty big bin full of clothes. I've spent probably $250 on these clothes, and it's absolutely ridiculous that I spent that much on used clothes at a Goodwill store or a Salvation Army. Some of these places with the big names are kind of expensive. You got to find the little mom and pop places, but at the end of the day, my wife's real crafty. She can sew, and I would much rather just have my wife teach me how to sew, which she has. And that's going to be one of my tutorials. Is I went to Walmart. It was $1.50 a yard for a very nice purple material, solid purple. And I'm just going to make her a very nice, I guess, a shawl or whatever you'd want to call it. It's going to be something. I don't know what it is, but it's going to cover her. It's the right color. It's going to match the hat that she has, and it's really going to look good. Last thing that I'm going to talk about before I go on to the next one is the hands. There's several different things you can do with the hands. Right now I went to Michael's and I bought these guys. These are zombie hands. It's anybody can see they're the ground breakers. They have these guys right here, ground breaker hands. I like the ones from Michael's because they don't have the tabs that come out like this. These are pretty straightforward and they will fit perfectly inside that PVC pipe. And what I do is I spray great stuff down that tube pretty deep, and then I stick these guys in there. I'll stick it down the hole. We'll just use this piece of PVC as an example, but I'll stick it down the hole like such. It's got a little bit of wiggle room, but when you get that gray stuff in there, it's gonna be pretty tight. And I pull this back and I zip tie this part right here exactly where I want it. Once it dries, I will unzip tie it and I can cut this cloth off, or maybe I'm gonna put something on it where this is gonna be covered up and it's not a really big deal if I cut it off. But these hands are only, at Michael's right now, I believe they're only $4, they're originally $10. This is a great investment. They're, you can also heat them up and you can get them to move a little bit, but you can't do too much with the heat, but it does tend to work out. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go on to our second build. This build is gonna be my Scream guy, Ghostface. I think his name's Ghostface from Scream. Yes, that's his name. I'm making a monster museum. It's gonna be the last. It's gonna be the last portion of my haunt, and I'm making Ghostface because I don't really think he's that scary, but he is a pretty big. He's a really big piece when it comes to haunted houses and all that kind of stuff. So I already had the mask. I'm gonna make his outfit. His outfit again, really cheap. Walmart, $1.50 a yard. I think it's gonna take me about 4 yards to make everything for him. So you're looking at $6 to get his materials made. And because he is wearing like a big shawl looking thing or whatever you want to call it, because he is wearing something like that, you don't have to get too beefy with his legs or anything like that. So here's some of the parts that you're going to need. I'm going to get everything real quick. He requires a little bit more PVC. I would say his PVC is more than likely around 2 pieces of PVC, maybe a little less. I measured him off my exacted measurements. So when we're done, this guy should be about 6'2". Maybe a little taller. I like to exaggerate on the size a little bit. I think the bigger the better. My butcher shop guy that I made, he is supposed to be 6'2", and after I put him on the base and his head and his cover and everything that I put over top of him, he's probably 6'5". And material wise, between 6 foot and 6'5" is next to nothing, just pennies. So it's really not a big deal. So here are some of the items that you're gonna need for this build. I think I'm missing some, but we'll see as we go, because this might actually be all that we need. So this guy, I'm gonna have him with a knife like this, and this arm is gonna be straight down. So I don't need a lot of, I'm gonna be missing one elbow for that, whether it be a 45 or a 90. So he's just gonna be standing like this. So just keep that in mind as we go. Here's some of the pieces that you're gonna need. You're gonna need 2 3-foot pieces. You're gonna need a 26.5-inch piece for his spine. You're gonna need a 2-foot piece, and that's gonna be for his arms that's straight down. You're going to need you're gonna need an 11.5-inch piece, a 12-inch piece. You're gonna need an 8-inch piece, and then you're gonna need 2 4-inch pieces and a 6-inch piece. So we're gonna put all this together. Some of the fittings you're gonna need another of these 4-ways. These things are $2 at Home Depot, but they make the build real easy. You need 1 T fitting, and you're gonna need 5 90s. You could substitute 2 of the 90s for a 45, depending on how you want his hands, and I'll play with that when we get to that point. Another thing you're gonna need, which is the most important, is your base. Now, many people do different things with their bases. I was just at Home Depot today, and I seen that they had a base that was round, and it was mitered. It wasn't mitered. It was beveled on the edges with a router. It was routed. It looked really, really good. So when I went there, I was pretty impressed with it, and I thought about getting one, but I'd already started everything with what I have right here. So what you're gonna need right here is any kind of base. It doesn't matter. It could be wood. You could do the flanges on a piece of plywood, whatever the case may be. This is some really, really thick stuff right here. This is like a 2 by 12 maybe, something like that. And what you want to do is, for your base, what I do is I just get 2 of the wood chisels in here, or the paddles, the wood paddles, like this guy right here, and I basically just go in and get everything out, and then I shove them up in there. So what I'm going to do is, I realize that this hole is not big enough. Note to self, if you have a 3/4 inch PVC pipe, what you're going to do is you're going to use a 1 inch bit paddle to make that 3/4 fit in there. I know it doesn't sound correct, but I promise you 1 inch fits 3/4. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick time out, and I'm going to fast forward this part, but we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make these holes a little bigger, and we're going to Alright, and we're back. So, again, on my base, I kind of already put this guy together, so I knew the leg span on his width on his span, what it was going to be, so I already knew exactly where to drill these holes at right here to put the PVC in there to ensure that the armature was going to be good to go. Now, a lot of people do a lot of different things, depending on how much weight. If you're going to be putting a bunch of weight on an armature, one, you want to look at your PVC size. Maybe you want to use something bigger. Just a real quick thing about PVC, this purple stuff is for like sprinkler systems and stuff, and the inner diameter is very, very thin. This other stuff that I get is a little thicker, so it's a little bit more sturdy. I use this kind of stuff for the legs. Anything's going to bear the weight like the spine, but anything like the arms or anything, unless they're going to be holding something that's decently heavy, I'm using this purple stuff every single time. It's just readily available to me, and it's a lot easier for me to get. So you just want to make sure you're getting the right stuff. Now, if you're going to be getting something that's going to be like really heavy, you want to make sure that you're using the thicker PVC, and you might want to just use a different base. There's a lot of people out there that'll use the metal flanges, like a 3/4 inch flange. They'll put it down on this base itself, and then they'll take the junction for the PVC that's a screw that will screw into the metal flange, and then you can run PVC from there to give it more stability. That's totally fine too. The flanges are $8. I'm not paying $16 for 2 flanges for it to be steady, to be sturdy, even though I know that this build right here is not going to be that heavy. It's going to have maybe a pound of fabric. I'm going to have some foam insulation noodles that weigh next to nothing, and I'm going to have a head on there, and his head is just going to be a styrofoam head with a mask. I'm not doing anything crazy with the head, just a styrofoam head with a mask, and it will be the crappiest styrofoam head that I have. Because the mask, the eyes are blacked out and everything, so they're not going to see anything. So let's move forward with the build. The first thing we need to do is we need to put the legs in. And this is where you determining what you need for a base really comes in handy. Because mine's not going to be that heavy, I'm just going to simply take my PVC and I'm going to pound it into the bottom of this. I'm going to put this down and do it real quick, and then we'll go from there. So I got them in there. What I want to do is I want to make sure it's all the way to the bottom. And it's a really tight fit. Like I can't get these out even if I wanted to. It would take a good yanking for me to get these out, but I'm not even going to try because I don't need them to be that way. So now what I'm going to do, we're going to go real quick now. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take 2 90s. We're going to put 2 90s on. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my 2 4-inch pieces. I'm going to attach my 2 4-inch pieces. Then I'm going to take my T-fitting and I'm going to put my T-fitting in there. So there's my legs. All right, there's my legs. Now like I said, this guy's gonna be wearing some kind of like overhanging cape thing, shawl. I have no idea what it's called, but I think you get the gist, especially if you're watching this, you obviously know who Ghostface is. So, yes, so you wanna make sure that you really don't have to pad the legs unless you really, really want to. I'm just gonna make I'm gonna make the outfit that he wears a little wider, so it just drapes a little wider, and his shoulders are really wide too, so it's gonna be fine. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this down. I'm gonna move this out of the way, and then we're gonna work from here. So you probably can't see the base anymore, but I'm sure you get the gist. And again, don't glue any of this in until you absolutely feel it's necessary to glue them in, which is probably after you build it. All right, so next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the spine in, and then I take my 4-way. Put my 4-way in. And now I have to build my shoulders. So let me find the other shoulder real quick. All right, here we go. I was missing one piece from the beginning. I would have said one 8-inch piece is really 2 8-inch pieces. So this is gonna be my shoulder height right here, my shoulder width right here. I measured my own, and then I think I gave it about an extra inch on each side, just because I want this to fall straight down, and we don't have to worry too much about beefing up the legs. Next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add 2 90s. And my first arm, right here, I'm gonna have kind of at an angle down, like so. And then the second one is gonna have an angle, and I'm gonna put the longer one, which is 11.5 inch right here. I'm gonna put a 90. And I'm gonna do the 90 with it facing up, and then I'm gonna take my, this says 13 inch, but this can't be right. I got these two confused. This is a 13, this is 11.5. And then last but not least, I'm gonna put my neck in. Now I can adjust this any way I want. I know that he's gonna have a hand. So let's say that I wanted to use this hand. He could have the hand right here, and maybe I could get him to grasp a knife by putting a heat gun on this and wrapping around, hot gluing a knife in his hand, something. So the hands is always the hardest part. If you got really fake looking hands, it's not gonna look very realistic. So I believe in the movie he wore gloves, but I'm just gonna double check. If he wore gloves, I have a plan for that. And that's another tutorial that I'm gonna do this week, because hands are everything. You can make the best prop in the world, but if you got crappy hands, it's not gonna look realistic, and they're gonna know that it's fake. My goal for this haunt is in my monster museum. I'm gonna be Michael Myers. We're gonna have Ghostface. We're gonna have a miniature clown that don't have shoes. We just gotta name him yet. He doesn't have feet. We're gonna have the nun in there. We're gonna have Jason. And there's a couple other ones that I just cannot think off the top of my head right now. And I'm with Michael Myers. I'm literally gonna be standing on one of these bases. It's motionless. And I'm gonna start moving, and it hopefully freaks people out. So if you have a bunch of these guys that look fake, and then I'm standing there with a knife in my hand and my hands look absolutely real, it's not really gonna work out. So we'll see what happens. It's a goal of mine to make sure that the hands are good. It's something I learned this year and something that I wanna keep digging on. So I kinda hope that you found this helpful. And before I go, I forgot. This guy, what I would probably do is use a tomato cage, all right? And I'm not gonna put it on perfectly, but I'll show you how I would do it. Is I just take this guy off right here. Take it off from the top. And I usually leave the big part. Towards the top, like so. Put this back down. And what I can do is, you can see where this weld is already broke. So I can make it smaller, bigger, whatever I want to do. Normally what I'll do is I'll just zip tie it wherever I want. If I want it down this low right here, I'll zip tie it with a couple zip ties so it's kind of free hanging. But when you put the clothes on him, he's gonna be fine. And then I can zip tie him down here as well. So we're gonna have more to go on this guy. And like I said, I'm gonna be making his outfit as well, and I'm gonna have a tutorial on that, on how we make the outfit. So again, I hope you learned something. I'm always looking for better ways to do things. This is the #1 way for me to build characters of any form that I want. I love building completely from scratch. I wish I could do this Ghostface guy without even using his mask, but it just makes it so much easier. I mean, I have a mask laying around, and those masks are pretty cheap, so it's a no-brainer to pay $5 or $7 to get the mask on a Halloween sale, and utilize that next year so it looks more realistic. So I hope you guys keep tuning in. Like I said, I'm going to take you all the way with me. We got a lot of stuff done in the haunted house tonight. My wife was out there holding boards, trying to get the level and everything. It was a pretty good time. We had a good time today. We got a lot of stuff done. We still got 6 days till it's time, and we have a lot of stuff to do. So until next time, we'll catch you later.